something bad happened to me as a kid. Actually, many bad things. I was incessantly bullied in my grade school years. I was, for whatever reason, the target, and it seemed to be universal for everybody else's insecurities or whatever, whether it was I was the big kid, I was too nice, I was a target. And I took a lot of blows. Maybe not so much physical, but certainly in my person. To the point that principals and parents got involved. And I remember distinctly when I moved from one school to another, I remember thinking, okay, here I have an opportunity. I'm leaving one place of my peers that I never fit in with, suffered from, and I'm going to this brand new place, brand new school in a new town. No one knows me. No one. I am unknown. And I was hoping that maybe I can have a new start, a new identity, try things differently. And I remember that very first day of school, everybody's first day of school in this new town, and we're all gathered outside, we're put into our classes even before we go into school, backpacks, my mom drops us off. And the very first thing anybody ever said to me, of my classmates, was a disparaging remark about how I was trying to be a poser. That I was this wannabe, I was this person, this like, wannabe. I had no idea who he was talking about or why me. But that was not even a hello. I didn't even get to say hello. I literally was just standing there. And their first reaction was to say something mean to me. And in that moment, as a kid, in the logical mind that I have, it sort of clicked. Oh, like some sort of scientific fact, because absolute strangers who don't know me from anything, their reaction to me is exactly the same way that I've experienced my whole childhood with my peers. This just must be who I am. My very nature, my very person, this is just my lot. This is just, I deserve it because of who I am. It's hard to be with that logic because like it was there, it was unbreakable, it was undeniable. That there is this class of people that exists here. These are the normal kids. Most everybody else. And then there was me, who existed on this plane before. And anything that might be some sort of positive trait or characteristic of myself, I could play the piano or something. All of these things really didn't matter in the end. All it did was just sort of elevate my stature just a little bit, but just to rise me just a tiny bit closer to where just everybody else in the world exists. But my very nature was down here. That I am a tolerated person. And that my worth is very little, if anything. I'm not lovable. My dignity is minuscule and unimportant in the grand scheme of society. And I took in and believed in this situation, that this is just truth. And I began to, from that point on, just separate myself and view the rest of the world in these different groups, dividing us into different things and who deserves what, and et cetera, et cetera. And then I knew from that moment on that if I was to at least garner some sort of semblance of happiness or dignity or self-worth, that I was responsible for that. I had to ensure that, because up to that point, no one else was going to do it for me. No one else cared enough to be able to work for my happiness or my good. Why? Because that's just who I was. I was left to my own devices. And I became really, really good at molding myself, shifting myself to different groups, situations, to be what I felt they wanted me to be or needed me to be. To somehow get from them in this way any small dose of affirmation, affection, dignity. I would change myself so that I can get that. And I began really good at reading people and being for them what they needed so that I can suck from them what I needed. And if I wasn't successful in doing that, if everybody's positive regard of me at some point, as I'm trying to manage all the different relationships and who I am and being this for that, and if I failed and if someone didn't like me or criticized or offered to correct whatever, I would fall apart. Because that deep, deep belief, that truth that I truly am in my nature here, was reinforced and brought back to my face, and I would fall apart, and it was painful. And even as I grew and matured and understood the distinctions between good people, bad people, right, wrong, etc., I still found myself, because I had so trained myself that I was responsible for my own dignity and happiness, and that I had learned how to get from others what I needed at any particular moment for my own sense of dignity and worth, that even my true friends that I would develop, the people who truly did care for me, who truly valued me, how easy it was for me to abandon them. I would make plans, I would, promise to be there for them, whatever, and then if something better came along, or if I just didn't feel like it, or if I wanted to do something else, I would abandon them to do whatever else I wanted. Easily. And it would hurt them. They would get angry at me, and I would hurt them. And I would do that. I would do that. I acted in response to be able to meet those needs. And you might be looking at me, and I hope, and I say, Father, I hope you would say this. That's such a lie. You're not a bad person. You're worth something. How could you? Oh, no, you're so good. Okay? Yeah. I know that now. But nonetheless, I couldn't escape it. I so easily was able to believe the lie because the lie was believable. If last week we were talking about this God, this all-powerful God who created and instills in us this absolute wonder and awe of the umpteen billions of stars and a universe that is umpteen billion light years away, and yet he sees us and values us, who is capable of creating angels, but yet chooses us as his beloved and gives us and makes us in his image. Why in the world then, no Siri, no. Why in the world then did I believe that I was worth nothing? Why in the world then was it so easy for my peers to lash out and do that evil to me? Why in the world then was I so willing to believe that even God didn't care about me? Why is everything so messed up? Why? How is that possible? That doesn't make sense, but yet That's what my life has shown me. How capable and easy it is to believe the lie. Evil was done to me, and I nurtured it. I fomented it, and I allowed it to continue. And then I reacted to it and perpetuated it to those who really cared about me. Sometimes, in the very beginning of the Bible, we have this creation story. This all-powerful God who breathes life into clay, who says, "Let there be light," and boom, there is light. And in the midst of absolute perfect and harmony and perfection and happiness and joy and completion, the very first things that happen to creation is the devil, the serpent, the evil one. And we do not like to think about this reality. In one sense, we say, "Father, don't be so superstitious. Stop it. We've advanced in technology and science. We know the devil is a metaphor. Stop giving him a reality." And seriously, just being a good person isn't really that it. Isn't that all that matters in the end, is that we're good people? So don't worry about the devil. Or we might say, "But Father, I am a good person. I am not a mortal sinner. Thank the Lord." We really should thank the Lord that we're not mortal sinners, and that most people are not mortal sinners. But the ability to say that the devil only works in areas that we might think of as grave and deep and really flashy: genocide, racism, ruining the end of a Harry Potter book before someone has a chance to finish it. The greatest of evils humanity has ever seen. And there's this boundary in which he works, and it really has nothing to do with my life. Why? Because I'm a good person. I work for the poor, I'm helpful. My friends, no one is immune. No one is immune to the ways of the enemy. This is how the devil works. This story of my life. And I can imagine that almost all of you, I always want to leave room for someone who is immaculately conceived or is a living saint, has related with something in my story. The hidden lies they believe, that diminishment of their own self-worth or their dignity, or recognizing in whatever small way their ability to diminish the dignity or the self-worth in another person, big or small. We justify it. No one is immune to this. No one. This is the way the devil works. Not in big flashy things, but in the subtle, sly lies wrapped in truth. It's genius, really. Really is genius, and he does it two ways. One, he distracts us, and he uses suspicion. Adam and Eve, this story, is a beautifully well-written and insightful and wise story. Because what does the devil not do in this story? The devil does not put the apple in their hands, nor does he shove it in their mouth, nor does he put them into a trance or manipulate their arms. He simply shows the reality around them and then puts a question. I mean, you're in the midst of paradise. Yeah, true, things are good. But God said, don't eat from this tree. I wonder why. Is God holding something back? Does God not want you to have everything? As Baruch says in our first reading, the devil took us by the hand and walked us away. And the thing is, Adam and Eve didn't have to eat the apple. They chose to. They chose to. But here, that suspicion, that one thing that is supposed to be a universal truth, that God is a good God, God is a powerful God, God is a loving God, that you are good, that you are worth it, and you are the preferred loved ones of God, that he created you in his image, and he wants you and knows you by name, that small doubt that maybe that's not true. That this loving Father that you hope he is and maybe think that he is, or that he purports himself to be, maybe that's not true. And then the little things. A good God would never allow these things to happen. A good God would never allow it. Or a good God, or God is either not good, God doesn't exist, or is indifferent. And it's just up to me. And these logics that we are so tempted by, everyone has them. Everyone has thought them. If you don't, you lie. Is convincing. It's tempting. And I believed it. I am a good person, I hope. I know I do bad things. But I was not immune to it. And I fed it. And I believed it, and then I acted on it, and hurt others in the process. Not in big mortal sin ways. I didn't human traffic. I didn't slaughter people. But nonetheless, I lashed out and reduced not only my dignity, but that of the others, and therefore separated myself from the truth and let the lie continue, and others believe it. This genius of suspicion. And we could also think that the devil distracts us from himself, too. He could either garner from us and put on the airs that is way more powerful than he really is, and make us afraid of him. And we live in constant discouragement, constant fear, and constant degrading of our own selves, that we are only destined to hellfire and brimstone, and that God's power is actually possibly not strong enough to overcome it. And we hyperinflate the power of the devil. Or we only say that he works in these big ways. And on the other hand, he distracts us in the ways that makes himself, well, I'm not even here. The devil doesn't exist. And in the end, we can then convince ourselves that it's really all about just being good people. I'm a good person, Father. You know, my sins aren't bad. Not really worth saying anyway. And we dismiss the small things, the little white lies that we justify, the small activities that we do that feel good, and in the end, they don't harm anybody anyway, right? We ignore the little things and justify the lack of love, the lack of the ability or allowing ourselves to diminish the other just a little bit, to continue dividing ourselves. That division, the compartmentalizing, the judgment, the gossip, the blaming, the vitriol, and we justify it in the name of goodness and truth. This is exactly what the devil wants. Our division, our ability to attack each other and demean each other, because that's where he wins. Any moment that we have felt that our dignity is somehow not there, or that our self-worth is small in any degree, or we make or believe that of others, or make others believe that of themselves, this, my friends, is the smallest, wildest, cunningest influences that we have working against us. And we are all capable of it. Look around. That is why the world is so messed up. And we cannot ignore the fact. Father, are you just saying then the devil made me do it? Yeah. And no. Yeah, because we are susceptible. We were created good for love and to be loved, and we were given a freedom of mind and a freedom of a will. But that will and freedom are limited. There are limits. We do not know everything. If you do know everything, please come tell me and tell me the whys. We don't know everything. And we know that sometimes we might desire something, but we don't know if it's good for us or not. Or they might shift. Or we might act on a smaller good, eating a plate of donuts instead of going for a run. We're capable of this. We're susceptible. How many of us have done something that we know we didn't want to do? To be in the good graces of our friends. We call peer pressure. The things we've never really wanted to do, but we did it anyway. Or we don't do the things we knew we should do or wanted to do. We knew something was bad, we knew something was wrong, and we did it anyway. Or we knew it was good, but we just, for whatever reason, out of fear, out of whatever, we didn't. No one is immune to that, ever. And it is precisely there where the devil works. Can influence subtly, reinforcing the lies. And then once we choose it, he capitalizes on it. But yet at the same time, I chose to abandon my friends. I chose to value myself over that of another. I chose to meet my own needs at the expense of other and use others to meet that need. I know that. The devil didn't make me do that. But I could not control the bullies who were going to bully me. I couldn't manipulate them enough. I could not control the whys I was going to be the one to be attacked. I could not control the effects that was going to have in my life. And in the end, I could not control believing the lie. I could not control perpetuating the lie and truly believing in myself that I was worth nothing. And that the way of the world was that there was this caste and I was down here. I could not control that. I had no power to break myself and free from it. The Book of Wisdom, from the earliest writings of the oldest of testaments, writes down and says, through the envy of the devil resents us because we are the chosen ones. We are the beloved of God. We were created in his image, not the angels. And that we were preferred, he resented us. And through that envy, to stick it to God, he tries to ruin God's creation and separate him. And taking him under his control and using his power that he does have, manipulating us to his own ends. Through the envy of the devil, death entered the world. And those who are in his possession experience it. We have every single one of us have experienced it. And we are powerless against it. No one is immune to the realities of life. So what's the solution? What is the solution? Can this ever be fixed? What, if anything, has God done about it? That's next week. Spoilers. That's Christmas, my friends. John is in the desert, and here in this Gospel of Luke he gives us an exact time and place, history. He can give us the date. He can tell us who was reigning. Something really was happening, and this person who is crying out in the desert is a son of someone. And he has a name, and his name is John, and his dad's name is Zechariah. This one is talking about making straight the paths and how crooked the roads are and how rough it is it is going to be made smooth. And as high as the mountains and the hills and insurmountable as they seem, they will be made low. And if we are in the deepest of valleys and ditches, it'll be brought up, and the rough ways will be made smooth, and our winding road through this existence we call life will be made straight. This is the voice crying out in the wilderness. We exist in the desert. And all flesh, all of us, are going to see that finally this calling, this absolute human knowledge that we are inescapable of the bad things, that we are captured and constantly being worked against, and we work against each other, that finally this long-awaited hope to be restored to the thing that some part of us in our deepest DNA says that we are good and should be good and can be good, but don't know how to get there, that one is coming. And finally, light will be revealed. Truth. And the thing working against us will no longer have any power over us. Baruch, prophet, said, we are robed in mourning and misery. We know that. There is a grace in this week to sit in this very Lent-y kind of Sunday in our middle of Advent that we don't like. We can feel that robe of misery and mourning. But let's take a moment to pray for the sober reality check of our life. That we are not immune in what we are capable of. And how the devil is infecting all of us, working against us, and how we act and react in response to it. But then Baruch says, throw it off and put on the splendor of glory, wrapped in the cloak of justice that comes from God. Pray for light. This light, this splendor, so that the enemy can be seen as he truly is. Puny and powerless against God, because the solution to our problem, if we are not able to free ourselves, is that we need someone from outside to come in, to invade and rescue us. Jesus came to set the captives free, a savior of hope, restoring that which was lost, as was in the beginning where we said the devil walked us away, God had to go and bring them back. That is Christmas. So let us pray this week for the light to see the enemy as he truly is, to expose him and expose the lies that we believe and we keep on believing and push each other to believe, and to finally put him in his place. Put him in his place, so that we can actually feel that joy that those shepherds felt, that all of Israel came to realize when Christ was born on that day. What that hope is, and why we sing joy to the world and O Holy Night. And let us await our redemption, our freedom. And let us be preachers of that gospel so that all can be freed from captivity.